So, show of hands, without talking to me at some point, how many here have heard of collective intelligence? 2. All right. What do you do, Kurt?
I work for an artificial intelligence cybersecurity company.
And there we have it.
So you all have probably heard of AI. You know, the media talks about it till they're blue in the face. And you may have heard of BI, and that's business intelligence. But most people, as you've seen, do not know what CI is. And the reality is that CI has been around since the dawn of time, unlike AI and BI. And collective intelligence is effectively groups of people coming together to solve problems. So here's a quote from Thomas Malone. He founded the School of Collective Intelligence at MIT. He's a professor. He wrote a book called Superminds. And the whole premise of the book is how humans, groups of humans and machines can come together to create a supermind. I'm just going to read it real quick. For a long time, the most important contribution of computers won't be AI. It will be hyperconnectivity, connecting human minds to each other in new ways at unprecedented scales. So when you think of CI, you think of tribes originally, communities, nations, societies coming together to survive, maybe to solve problems, to build infrastructures, to build empires. In the context of doing business or coming together in a group like this, CI exists, but it's a bit like your breath in that unless you think about it, it's sort of an autonomic thing. You can kind of slow down and take a deep breath and be intentional with it. Otherwise, it just sort of exists as you're working to solve problems, right? True or false? This group right here is a representation of collective intelligence.
True.
False. And the reason why is because coming into tonight, we haven't decided collectively that we're working towards anything. Right?
So main purpose is the...
Exactly. So what is CI? Shared intelligence that emerges from the collaboration and collective efforts of many individuals to advance decision making. So how does it work? In order for CI to work, we have to have a system and we have to have rules. You see a soccer field. In this case, soccer as a game, as a sport, is scalable. It has a playing field, a container by which you play the game, and it has rules. All of those rules are written somewhere, and if you say in South Africa, I want to play soccer, you're going to know exactly what I'm talking about, right? So when it comes to doing business, how can we give context to CI and the system and the rules by which you play the game of business, right? There's a lot of different tools that you may notice up here. You've got Evernote, Docs, Dropbox, PowerPoint, Sheets, any number of tools that make up your workflow. All of these tools are in little TPs. Those represent silos. All of the information within those silos represent some piece of information that allows you to make decisions and accomplish your goals. So as a team, you sort of have to go in and out of these little TPs in order to score the goal, right? That's where we are today. And so software as a service, which is called SaaS. I don't know if any, have you guys heard of SaaS? Okay, it's an acronym, software as a service. All of these tools are SaaS tools. And what they're now saying is it's software as a silo. So how do we create the system and rules so that we're all on the same page? We can see each other and we can effectively score goals. We're all running in the same direction. We're all optimizing our effort as a team, as a unit, and overall the knowledge and applied knowledge, which is intelligence, allows us to become more efficient, more effective as a team. So when it comes to business, why do we show up to work? Let's like go all the way down to like the bare minimum reason why we show up.
Get paid.
To get paid.
Yeah.
Why does your boss hire you?
To solve a problem.
To create value, right? And when it comes to value, a value at some point turns into a product or service. And from that product and service, you have a transaction. There's a value exchange, right? When you're in business, you have transactions. And you're not in business until you have transactions. And those transactions, they make a marketplace. So the goal is for you to show up to work, not only to be dignified as a human, make money, create value, that sort of thing, but ultimately it's how do we arrive at more transactions? How do we create more alignment so that we're doing business in a marketplace and growing the profits of the team, the stakeholders, etc. So let's go like even further down to the grassroots level of like, what is the least common denominator of business doing? So what is the origin of any product?
Value.
It's a thought. It's a thought. It's a bit like your breath. We walk around and we just think. We don't think about thinking, we just think. It's a response to sensory information that's coming in, things that we smell, things that we see, things that we interact with. And so if you consider for a second, how do you bring those ideas to life? Ideas being a collection of thoughts. How do you bring them to life? There's a video that I want to show you that pertains to this lady here. Can you click on that link?
It read, "Mummies of Inca Children Unearthed." It's an article about how scientists were climbing one of the world's highest mountains to retrieve mummies. Scientists are climbing mountains? Two big parts of my life have been mutually exclusive until now. I can picture it. I have an idea. I need to access Chile. I used to think an idea was that light bulb moment. But it's really like a slow hunch that's brewing in your brain for years and is connecting experiences, adapting concepts. But that eureka moment is when you can visualize the course of action. To bring an idea to life, I have to be able to visualize the ending. What does it look like, sound like? Does it create something new? Or does it really end there? From here on, for me, it's identifying the architecture of the idea. It's building the foundation, fixing the weaknesses in the structure. I decided to use my experience as a scientist and a mountaineer to create an educational series called Access Chile. I'll be exploring Atacama and Patagonia, two of the most hostile and fragile ecosystems. It takes months of physical training, gear testing, route planning, crafting stories, studying topics, landing budgets, hiring a crew. I've played roles I have never played before. Ultimately, its impact on the world is the type of impact I've been craving to make, but never knew how. This is what made this idea worthwhile, worthy of facing failure, risking my hard-earned career in physics, and even risking my life at times. It's much more than joy and pride when you realize an idea. It's a sense of relief. I've lost so much sleep to this dream, and I haven't even gotten there. Until then, I'll be preparing for the journey ahead.
So, her name's Perez. She's a physicist and a mountaineer at UCLA. And she had this idea based on an article that she read about mummies at the top of this mountain in Chile. And as a physicist, scientist, she decided to go create a science literacy documentary. And the whole premise of collective intelligence is that no one is as smart as everyone. And so with that idea, there has to be rules on how you document it and how you move it to action. So when you walk out of the office place and you're going to meet your friend for a cocktail, and you're remembering that meeting, and you have that thought, do you know exactly where to put it? Do you text yourself? Do you email yourself? Do you put it in a notes app? Do you put it in docs? And what I've found as a business professional, I have friends that work for a number of corporations. I'll use Amazon as an example. There aren't defined rules around where they keep their thoughts. You can walk into a meeting and everyone has the liberty to document their ideas, their thoughts, any way they want to. And maybe that's fine. But at some point they need to know how to contribute so that you can move that thought to some sort of action plan collectively, right? So document and measure human effort. Furthermore, you need to be able to benchmark performance with data. So the data, the results of all of your activities, all of your effort, whether it's an event tonight with RSVPs and how many people showed up and what I did to promote it, or building out a co-working space and onboarding memberships from a Facebook campaign. Any number of results that happen as people started to move their ideas to action. Those data elements are really like bumpers in a bowling lane. They act as a guide so that you can optimize your effort. And then furthermore, being able to optimize the activity to achieve better results. So once you see the data in front of you of all the activity, all the results, how do you then start with another idea to optimize those results? So it's almost like a constant feedback loop. So you have an idea, you get results, you optimize, and it just keeps going. You have another idea, get results, you optimize, etc. So Sneaks, what about Sneaks? We have a vegan protein mix. We got a lot of feedback based on that. We ended up having to, due to sales and customer feedback, we had to reformulate. So that was a feedback loop that we ultimately ended up with this product right here. So we had a vegan protein mix, basically turned into that, meeting with food scientists, etc. So the group knowledge and all of the information being inside of a unified space allowed us to move those thoughts to action, see the results, and iterate. And all of it was contained within the same space. So we could go back and actually see, well, how did we get here? We could see what do we do in Q1 that needs to be different in Q2. All of that information is contained. We didn't have to go through emails. We didn't have to go through messages. We didn't have to go through talks. All of the written words were in the same system. Just like soccer. And just like Wikipedia. So this is probably the most popular example of collective intelligence. 141,000 people have contributed to the knowledge of the world as we know it. How do they do that? Well, there's a system, Wikipedia, and there's rules. So there's rules of engagement. People create pages, and they have discussions. That's it. You can create a page. Let's say the page is about Monk. Maybe I created the page. I'm partially knowledgeable about it. Aaron's like, hey man, that's not quite right. These 15 sentences need to probably be amended. Collectively, we have a discussion. They get amended. The overall knowledge and the intelligence is enhanced. So what does that look like for your business? So CI is a system. B notes, create and channel information across spaces. So we have workspaces. B notes is the system. How do we do that? We have spaces, workspaces, which is like the highest level of organization. It could be a project, it could be a product, it could be a department, it could be a company. And then we have channels, which are essentially categories. So breaking it down to marketing, design, development, etc. The channels give context to the copy or the content that you're creating, or the information rather. Okay. So what you see here is the Access Collective workspace, and you see channels over here. The notes that you see here, team notes and Rome partnership. So I invited Eileen, that physicist, to B-Notes, and I had her create a workspace for her idea. And so she called it Access Chile. And her distribution partnership is called Rome, which is a production company. And so all of the notes for that, from an idea all the way through fruition, lives inside of this system. And that leads me to the next piece of B-Notes, which is discussions. So next week, not only will we have long-form information, but we'll also have real-time discussions available on the notes. Ooh. So this is the collective intelligence presentation that I just gave you. It started with an idea. These are all the slides. And then I published it, and my designer and I went back and forth. Here's our conversation. So one of the things that Jeff mentioned that's his favorite is the dashboard. So we are building out the dashboard so that you can actually have data based on modules from Facebook, Google, Instagram, QuickBooks, Shopify, and then your own custom data. Cool. So you'll be able to use this almost as a mirror. It's like holding up a mirror to your effort. Yeah. It's like, oh yeah, I get to look at the results. And you'll be able to add the data to your notes.
That's pretty cool. That's really cool. Specifically adding the data to your notes.
So here's an example of...
Is that BI?
This is BI, yeah. So here's an example of adding the data to your notes. There it is.
Wow.
Yeah, actually, this is like real data right here. We just added to your notes. So that's a kind of a beta version of what we're doing. But
so say I got a spike in traffic, I could capture the fact that we got a spike and say, what was this about? Did it have to do with the recent PR release? Did it have to do with the recent Forbes magazine article? Is that why we got this cap?
exactly. And so you can have a discussion with your marketing department about that.
That's awesome.
And
So over time, the business intelligence aspect of it will identify what's commonalities of your successes, where you have the spikes and stuff. And it'll tell you, over
Exactly.
time, this is what was successful, boom, boom, boom. This didn't work, boom, boom, boom. And you can begin to craft and create things according to the collective information around each intelligent data point.
And if you're a director or CEO of a company, you're going to be able to actually pull reports. You're going to be able to pull reports by time, by category, by team, and you're going to be able to see, okay, we had 15 people contribute, we had 30,000 words were written, this is a word cloud of the topics that were discussed, and here's the results.
That's pretty cool.
So you could effectively say, as Jeff mentioned over time, show me my best quarter in 2017. Not only do I want to see the results, I want to see all the activity. You can't do that if the information is not contained inside of a system. If it's not intentionally built to allow for CI, you can't do it. And that's why data analysts and data scientists right now are in high demand, because they're looking at a lot of data inside databases, and they're trying to tell the story and put that story back into natural language. We're looking at data, it's not, there's a story there, but somebody has to translate it. The reality is, all the words were already written.
That's pretty cool.
That's it. Thank you.
Very cool.
How much is this?
It's free.
So, no, that's a great question.
Boom.
All right, so if you sign up for B Notes, you get a personal account today. You get a personal account. If you want to start using it in a professional capacity, you just create a workspace, and you pay $12 a month. We don't charge per member, so that's very different than other SaaS companies. So if you have 30 employees, or in the case of 1909, if you have 70 or 100 members, you only pay $12 a month.
Oh, this is cheap.
Yeah.
1909 is using it, by the way.
And 1909, yeah. Ryan, stand up. Let's get like a real world kind of like, not just a testimonial, but like talk about your pain points and sort of how you arrived at deciding to use B Notes, even outside of me. I know I like strong armed you, but
Not at all.
Yeah.
No, I actually, a lot of it was a personal issue that, like you were describing at the beginning of the presentation, like just not really knowing where to place your notes. And some people are putting their notes into Google Docs, other people are putting their notes, sending notes via email, other people are sending notes via Slack. And so a lot of information was just falling through the cracks. Or when you needed to access it, you just didn't know. Like, well, should I look in our Google Docs, or should I look through some other folder? And it just, is it in Trello? There's so many different places where we're keeping information. So we saw B Notes as a way to, when we had something that was concrete, that it goes there and everything lives there. And it's so much easier from a UX standpoint to access files in this system.
UX?
What's that?
What's UX?
User experience. You want me to expand on that?
No. I mean,
All right.
People don't know what UX is.
Well, just from the standpoint of if you put your documents into Google Docs and you're trying to call old documents, like there's so many different folders and there's so many different ways that people are saving things. And when it's in here, it's just so easy to access. Obviously, people are able to use to edit the same notes, and you're able to tag things in multiple ways. Where a Google Doc, like you put it in one folder, even if it relates to 4 different subjects. It could be about the accelerator, it could be about marketing, it could be about multiple things. And so, B Notes, just everything about it really catered to our needs, and obviously it caters to a lot more companies' needs too. But
so along those lines, what would have made this a CI experience is if we were all coming to these events and saying our goal is to share knowledge. And so at some given time, if let's say we were all members of 1909, if we were taking notes, we would be able to publish those notes to a channel, let's call it events, and we would be able to see all the information that was, all the thoughts, all the ideas, all the knowledge that was shared, would have been shared as a result of, 10, 12 people sitting here today. Instead of walking away and like not really having much context other than maybe what you wrote down. Go ahead.
So the most applicable thing that I see for me using B Notes is I'm constantly seeing spikes in traffic or spike in sales that I might have an awareness at the moment what that represents. But past that moment, I totally fucking forget. Excuse my language. I totally forget. I don't remember at all. So the biggest value I can see immediately is just knowing when I have these spikes in sales or traffic or whatever it might be. Theoretically, and correct me if I'm wrong, but this is how I'm understanding I could potentially use it, is I could take the time to simply make a note about what my immediate thoughts are in the moment about my spike in sales, and then reflect, hindsight's 2020, I can reflect upon all those spikes and find out what are the interlinking patterns that are creating that boost in sales or traffic.
That's right.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
So for your team, right? So they could comment, well, I did this that day, so.
Well, and that'd be the other thing is, my perspective is like, this is why I think we had a spike in sales, but half the time I have no clue why we had a spike in sales that day. So if I can get 4 other people's opinions all at the same time, that'd be pretty valuable for me and my businesses.
Yeah. So the BI portion it's available to a select group. We have 37 people using it right now, and we're obviously going to make that widely available to everybody. But we're just kind of like working tweaks and stuff. The discussions that you saw when I, built out the presentation will be available next week. So you'll have both short form, written communication, and long form, which is like notes and docs, all within one system. And you'll be able to, like you said, go back and reference a year from now. Okay, what do we do to this, for this event, Fiesta and Flagler,